Alright, welcome everyone to some more Dungeon Crawl Stone Soup. Today is part 2 of the Deep Elf Fire Elementalist tutorial. Apologies for not getting the video out yesterday. I was unable to, as I was entertaining guests the entire day at my own home. So yeah, D1, Deep Elf Fire Elementalist. I'm going slow again to talk as much as possible about the Mage strategy. So last video, if you didn't watch it, which you should, because that's all the starting stuff, we talked about the strategy of the Deep Elf, or the strategy of a Mage, why would we pick Deep Elf Fire Elementalist, and a bunch of other things, including the mechanics of magic. And I left the point off with why would I play Mage. The one thing that I'm going to bring back from episode 1 is the strategy of Mage, so that we get very accustomed or acclimatized with it. The strategy of Mage is don't get in melee with stuff and always be at full mana, if possible. Your mana is your health, and your health is just an arbitrary time before you die. So make sure that you guys are not ever getting in melee with stuff. So again, the Google Doc, you guys can check it out. I am starting to write a little bit more detailed notes in here, just to provide a little bit more information, but I don't like there's no stats for this, so I don't know if this is actually useful, but no one seems to have said anything, so I'm just going to keep doing it, assuming that eventually someone will use it and find it helpful. Alright, so starting again on D2. Alright, so this is an instance where it might be confusing at first to start, and you're like, hang on, how does this fight work? This is actually not a great fight regardless. So the dart slug at the top can actually, I think it can't hit us right now. I don't know if it's full screen range. Slug dart. That's quite a couple of tiles range, so it probably has range over me. There's also a goblin to the right. So what I can do is I can pull back, throw one rock. Now, oh excuse me, dart slugs don't make noise when they're woken up. As you can see there, it just says it hits the stone, hits the dart slug but does no damage. This lets me get away from this thing pretty easily. Now, unfortunately, there is no way for me to avoid fighting this guy because he's also ranged. However, because of the fact that it has better range than me, I'm treating me as a melee and it as a ranged character, so that means turning the corner. This is not actually as good of a strategy against melee characters, but it's better against range. So for more information on that, please check out the line of sight video. I talk very specifically about Mage line of sight at the very end of that video. So yeah, it's quite a helpful video in general. Oh, is it called diagonal? I think it's diagonal movement and line of sight. That's the video it's called. I'm not exactly sure. Alright, so we got a ring at some point. If you're playing like fairly normally, it's completely acceptable to wear rings, like just whenever you pick them up, because they could be positive, they could be negative, they could be like neither. But for the time being, we'll just leave it. Again, we're just showcasing a little bit more optimal play. I don't know exactly how optimally this tutorial will be, because it might take a little too long. But yeah, we're just gonna have to try power through it. Oh, I forgot. On level 3, we picked up new spells. Enough spell slots. Oh, we got to level 3, so we can cast level 3 spells now. Which gives us access to Conjure Flame and Inner Flame. Now, I will say this. Inner Flame is the spell in the Fire book that you shouldn't even memorize. It's just the worst spell in the book, and it's actively harmful to you. Inner Flame effectively just immolates one enemy, meaning that if they die, they leave, and they explode into flames, which is a lot of damage. But, unfortunately, if an enemy is in melee with you, they will explode on you and kill you in one hit because you're a deep elf and you have no health. Also, it's fire damage, which you have no resistance to, and also you have to sit there hexing the guy until it actually immolates. So it's not a great idea. Conjure Flame, on the other hand, is one of the more powerful tools in the Fire Elementalist toolbox, I guess. It simply creates a blazing column of flame, so a cloud of flame at a targeted empty location, so you can't cast it on an enemy. You can't. It just doesn't let you. So what this does is it effectively just creates a little pillar of fire like that. This is very useful if you know how to use it. Specifically, if you use it on enemies that are stupid enough to walk into it, like the undead, for example, that can be provoked into walking into it. For example, high health ogres, they'll actually walk into it for some reason. Yaks, they tend to walk into it if you like attack them when they're on the other side of a cloud. And in general, it's just one of the more powerful spells for crowd control, in terms of you can put it in a corridor and you can avoid melee completely permanently. Okay, this is really annoying. Sorry, this macros. Wait, hang on. Macro, shift Q, clear. All right, and then I can save it. Yes, save macros. Go back in. There we go. Sorry about that. Again, I really need to work on fixing those macros before I start the recording, but I didn't even know until I had to butcher. Alright, so there I had to get into melee with something. I really didn't have to, but it was a single goblin, which is not too bad, I suppose. But I should definitely be walking away and trying to avoid being in melee with stuff. So line of sight control in this character is really important. I just want to talk here briefly about line of sight, using this corridor as an example. As you can see here, I have a cone line of sight here, restricted by the two walls on the top left and top right of my character. If I walk here, I have a much greater line of sight, which exposes me to more threats on the range side, and also exposes me to 3 tiles of melee combat. As a mage, though, I don't care specifically about the 3 tiles of melee combat, because I don't want to get in melee with any of them. And even here is a disastrous position if there's a strong melee right here. So instead, I want to increase the amount of range that I get, the amount of scope that I get, by expanding my line of sight, by pushing out into a corridor before I fire. It's a pretty simple concept. Range wants more line of sight, melee wants less line of sight. So whenever you're playing a mage, you try to increase your line of sight, like for example by doing that, but in this case I can't because there's another rat over there. I'm going to throw a flame, pull back upstairs, or pull back to the upstairs, towards the upstairs, and then back off. So, sorry, my throat's giving out on me. For those of you that don't know, I've been slowing down on recording because of a new medicine I'm taking that is messing with my throat. It's my own health, so I can't really avoid it. Okay, anyway, continuing on. We want to always be at full screen, or the maximum amount of range that our spell has at any given time. So throw flame right now is our max range spell, and it is pretty damn good at killing stuff. So here is like one of the more optimal positions right here, where there's a lot of tiles. It's on the edge of my line of sight of a worm. Like the worm is on the edge of my line of sight. Obviously being in this corner is probably a little better. Let's see the tiles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If he was over here, it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, it's actually the same. Yeah, it's actually the same. Okay, so it doesn't matter where he is along this tile, as long as it's sorry, as long as he's on the edge of my line of sight, he's roughly as many tiles away as he needs to be. So here you can see me walking backwards. I'm out of mana now, so I'm going to close the door, and I'm just going to rest here. The reason why I'm happy to rest here rather than upstairs is because the worm can't open the door. But even if there's something that could open the door, they'd open the door and then I'd immediately just back off into the corner like that. Which would give me access to Conjure Flame and all that good stuff. Alright, so the worm doesn't need to be at full screen line of sight. As you can see there, the 3 flame tongues handle the worm much faster than the throw flame. This is why I say that throw flame isn't quite as good. I'm going to go all the way back here and shout. Shout has a fairly large radius, and I want the shout to just barely hit the kobold. It's more of an intuitive, this is more of an intuitive range. I don't actually know what the range of shout is. I've only used it as a tool to, okay, this is a good position, so I'm just going to leave it here. I usually use shout as a tool to just, I don't know, lure people. You don't shout all the time, but sometimes you can. I don't know if I shouted on the snake and woke him up, but I hope I didn't. Anyway. This is a great position to indicate how line of sight should work. So there is a couple of, can you see my mouse? Yes, you can. Cool. So I'm going to just show you with my mouse how how there are two positions that you could take. The first one is moving to this corner and then pulling up, right? That's going to give you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tiles of space between you and the adder, which is a fairly decent amount of range. I could also go all the way up, all the way back here, so like that, and then pull in. That'll give me the maximum amount of tiles of range of tiles that between me and the adder, which is going to be significantly stronger. I could also move straight up, which would also do the same thing. But what I'll do is I'll pull out like this. This lets me explore this area as well, so great. And then I'm going to pull down. And as you can see here, this is actually beneficial because at some point the snake woke up, moved these tiles away, and I'm still at full line of sight, full edge of line of sight. This is like just really small, wide, like small things like taking really wide corners that provides you with that extra buffer of space and safety. If I had done that move up strategy, I would have lost 2 tiles worth of range already. If I'd moved over here, I would have lost significant. I would only have a mere 3 tiles between me and the adder. So this is just one example of using your corners efficiently. Now, again, engaging this adder in general just isn't an incredible idea. He is faster than me after all. But what we can do is cast a Conjure Flame in the corridor here, and that's going to block him off completely. This lets me just kind of pelt him with my other spells, which is really helpful. That's one use of the Conjure Flame, so I actually should put that down. Block corridors. Tempt enemies to death. There we go. Alright, cool. So I'm just gonna, probably this video, I'll probably just have a spell usage in the, just describing all of the spells. So again, this is another example of a wider corner, so I could just walk up into this area. Instead, I'm gonna walk down here. That's gonna still show me where the bat is, but at the same time, I haven't increased the risk. So I'm just looking for places to effectively see that optimal position. There's another optimal position. The only issue here is that there's unknown here very strongly. So we need to know that this enemy must die quickly, and then I back off immediately, right? If that was a strong enemy, I would not have engaged that fight. If only because I don't know what the hell's down here. There could be an enemy sleeping right here. I would have no idea. And him shouting, this guy shouting, wakes this guy up. Suddenly, 2 turns later, I got a guy next to me. Not a good idea. So, I'm being very cautious with the way that positioning works. I'm being very aware of where enemies could pop up. And in general, I'm just trying very hard to pay attention to what's around me and what could potentially be around me. So this is, again, a really not great bottleneck because it instantly opens me up to enemies on all sides, potentially. But obviously it's only D2, so there's no real need to be, like, super worried. There's not going to be, like, a crazy thing, most likely, hopefully. Sometimes it could be Sigmund, and then we're just screwed, but, you know. Alright, so we lost a hefty chunk of our mana there, just kind of pissing it away on Puff of Flame, which is why I don't like Puff of Flame sometimes. For some reason it just gets blocked by AC, it's weird. So what I did there is I just walked all the way back until I had full mana again, so that I reset the fight as if I hadn't taken any damage, any mana damage at all. Alright, I'm going to move my keyboard forward so I can actually play. There's Hep. I don't really need Hep. Hep is a more melee god. I'm just going to go ahead and continue on without him. Sorry, I need to check the audio again, just to make sure that it's not going crazy. This has caused some significant problems in the past. Hence why there was an outtakes video for this series. And I'm just going to keep backing off. So the Quacker was faster than me, but again, I'm not using the walking back strategy to increase space. I'm only using it to make sure that my mana is topped up. Alright, so this is an unfortunate spot to be in. I wouldn't necessarily want to pull up because pulling up requires a couple of turns in which I would be quite vulnerable. Here's a blowgun and a poison needle though. That's a pretty decent pickup. Alright, so we're gonna just hold on to this. Blowguns are being nerfed so that they're very bad without throwing, but we can still use it on certain enemies as a starter move. Again, this will replace this this will replace Throw Flame in a lot of circumstances where the enemy is not R-poised. Simply because it's a nice pot shot that is full screen. Alright, so here there's a couple of guys. Notice how the immediate reaction to me, I didn't even like control that, it was just literal reflex. Was back off immediately, restrict line of sight so that only one guy can see me. That was instantly the reaction, and that should be the reaction of a good mage player. So here I'm happy to just kind of pelt spells at this wizard. If he confuses me or does any bullshit, I can just kind of TP up. Sorry, I can just pull upstairs. It's not a huge deal. So this is a fairly safe position. It's getting a little bit more dangerous. I think I can pull him up. No, I didn't. Alright, that's fine. I go upstairs. The reason why I knew that it was okay to fight that guy, even though I was kind of running low on mana and he was kind of close, is because he was at low HP and my Flame Tongue is quite an accurate spell. So as it gets closer to me, my range of power is significantly stronger. The Throw Flame is a very weak spell. That's why I don't really like learning it on a lot of mages, but I'm learning it here to just show you as many tools as I can that aren't actively going to kill me. But Throw Flame, yeah, I don't tend to like. It tends to be a little less accurate. It tends to be a little weaker for some reason. I don't know what the exact formula is, but it always feels more ineffective. And feeling is really most of what Dungeon Crawl Stone Soup is. It's very intuitive in that regard. Anyway, the orc downstairs was in melee of the staircase. That's why I don't go back down, because going down would end up with an immediate and unavoidable melee encounter, which I don't want to do. I'd rather go downstairs, a different set of stairs, and hopefully engage that guy from a different angle at a larger range. Okay, I'm not sure if I have ID'd yet, so I'm going to go ahead and check. But I'll kill this bat first and then go upstairs. That's not the right upstairs. Okay, so I haven't actually read the identify scrolls yet, right? Yes, I haven't. So I'm going to check the 3 scrolls first, because that's more likely to be identify. It was remove curse, that's fine. I don't want to waste any of my other scrolls, so I'm just going to leave them. I could potentially do that if I needed to, but I don't feel like I'm in any threat yet. And these rings aren't exactly necessary yet, so I'm okay with that for now. Again, you'll hear a lot of people say the... Oh god, that's a ghost. Okay, so the ghost is a significantly dangerous enemy for an early mage player. I don't really have any good ways of dealing with him. What I will do is I will just kind of put a Conjure Flame there. If he's dumb enough to walk into it, I'm happy to just oblige. Alright, this Draconian Fire Elementalist is... Alright, that's why we don't try to fight him. Okay, he has the same tools as we do, apparently. I don't think he has Conjure Flame, though, because it might be a bit broken. But he has Throw Flame and Flame Tongue. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to go down some other staircases here to avoid this ghost. I don't think it's worthwhile to fight that ghost until we have some better firepower. Sticky Flame is another spell we can pick up. It's not exactly castable yet, but it's pretty good. It's a 1-tile range. Oops, that's not the right one. It's a 1-tile range. Throw Sticky Flame on your opponent, which causes a damage over time to happen to them. It's very effective, very powerful, works on a lot of enemies. Don't think it works on ghosts though, so not quite as effective there. But it's a really good spell in general. The only problem again is it causes you to be in melee with stuff, which means that it's very undesirable for certain fights. So there's an Orc Priest over there. There's an Orc Wizard here. I need to kill this Orc Wizard right now if I have any chance of fighting the Orc Priest. And the reason why is because I know for a fact that the other 3 staircases are just as bad. Excuse me. Well, they're not as bad as this, but they're quite bad. Alright, so you can cast spells even if there's no target in sight. So if you press Z right now, it doesn't let you, there's no enemies to see. But if you press Shift Z and then A, or the spell of your choice, you can actually just manual cast it. Like so. Alright, good. I'm going to have to find this Orc Priest and somehow kill him, because he is going to get in the way of my ambitions. So I'm going to stand on the staircase and just kind of pelt this guy. I need to kill one guy before I go upstairs. So as you can see, the smite does a lot of damage, but I knew that I would only take 1 smite, so I was not in horrible shape. Okay, this staircase is the one with just the random orcs in it. I think I can take those, but now the Draconian is there. So I'm gonna have to go down the third downstairs. Okay. There's a good opportunity here for me to just kind of dip into the next floor rather than fighting this ghost. But I think what I can do is clear a little bit more of the south. Unfortunately, that does mean the ghost is going to go ahead and just cut off my escape, most likely. But I'm willing to take that risk in case I need to find another downstairs. I only have two downstairs here, and they're both like roughly in the same position, blocked by the ghost. So if I could find my third one, that'd be great. But doesn't look like I have that choice today. Maybe we'll go up a bit. Like if I find that third downstairs, I'll be a little, I'll feel a little safer because it means that I have 3 upstairs on the D4 floor. Okay, doesn't look like we're having any luck here finding that. That's not too bad though. Backing off, being very cautious because I know there's enemies on this floor that I can't actually handle. Backing off. As you can see, I'm backing off further away from the last place I saw the ghost, which is over there. I'm making sure there's a very hefty space between me and that area, kind of creating a layer. I know that enemy is seeking, or sorry, he's currently wandering, but the chances of him being roughly in that area are still pretty high, so I want to play with the idea that he's still in that area. So I'm going to go down this staircase now. I'm going to have to skip D3, which is a bit unfortunate, but we'll continue on anyway. We'll see how things go. So Sticky Flame is now at 21% fail. Just check my skilling. With mages, you can actually check your skilling more often than with a melee. Melee can just turn off your brain in terms of skilling until min delay. But with magic, it's a little bit more fine. It's not harder specifically. It just means that I need to fine-tune my training a little bit more. So Sticky Flame is 21%. It's pretty hard. As you can see, it's got a yellow failure rate, which means that if it does miscast, it may do so, it might have some backlash on me, some negative effect, some miscast effect, which could be potentially quite bad. I don't think there's that many that are too bad at this point, but yeah, I'm just mentioning it now that you might miscast horribly if you screw it up. Alright, here's an ant. This is an enemy that's faster than us and also poisonous, but we're able to kill it with 3 throw flames. We could have also Conjure Flamed once it was in a corridor. Like, I'm going to do that here because Jackals... Okay, I'm wasting too much mana on it. Never mind. Jackals are D1 enemies. I could probably just use my Flame Tongue to one-shot them. They don't have much health. But yeah, if I fail in my strategy of Conjure Flaming, I can probably just kind of smack the guy down with Flame Tongues. It's fine. Again, these guys are very, like, lackluster enemies at this point. Alright, so there's a lot of unknown near my staircase on the south, so I'm going to go ahead and explore all this area first. Okay, it doesn't look like anything dangerous. Good. The idea of exploring more optimally is to explore in small concentric circles rather than exploring in rather than just using auto-explore to explore everywhere out into the far reaches. Obviously that's very tedious and honestly not worth doing most of the time, but again, we're playing optimally for just demonstrative purposes. I'm going to put Conjure Flame right here on the snake. That's going to prevent it from moving at all. Keep in mind, of course, that Conjure Flame will actually run out the second it leaves line of sight due to nerfs by the devs, so right there. If you walk out of line of sight of any cloud that you have spawned, it'll instantly desummon, which is really annoying, but whatever, I guess. Sure. They used to expire much quicker, and previously before that they didn't expire at all. As in, they were just as if you were on screen anyway. But yeah, now they just instantly snuff out the second you leave line of sight. You know what they say, if I can't see you, you don't exist. That's quite literally the dev philosophy in this case, but you know, what can we do about it, right? I feel like I'm starting to get a bit political here. Okay, so this orc has a dagger of venom. That's fine because we don't want to ever be in melee with him, but it does mean that if he does get in melee with us by some insane stroke of luck, we need to be able to deal with him very quickly, which is what Sticky Flame is good for. A great anti-personnel tool to kill stuff with. Alright, so I'm going to run away here, keeping line of sight. There we go. I made sure that the line of sight of the Conjure Flame was held, just so that it would stay on for as long as possible, giving me as much time to rest as possible. My mana. Okay, so there's that Orc Wizard to the north. I'm going to actually go explore a little bit to the left here, just to increase the odds that nothing backspawns me. Backspawning, what I'm talking about, guys, is actually where it's not really spawning, which is a bit misleading, but backspawning effectively means an enemy comes in from the back, from the unknown, or sorry, the enemy comes in from the known, so some area you've already placed, you've already explored, and then just comes and fights you, while you're fighting someone else, which is really annoying to me. It's a mechanic that I hate, but what can you do about it, right? So I'm reducing the chances of enemies backspawning me by clearing more of this area out. So anything in the unknown that wants to jump all the way across here to get to me, or up here, down here to get to me, there's less chance of that happening, basically, because I killed them before they had the chance to backspawn me. Effectively, what I'm doing is just managing line of sight again. Alright, there's an adder. By default, they're not exactly the most threatening enemy, so I'm not too worried about them at this point. There's gnolls. I'm going to go ahead and shout rather than moving closer and closer to that guy, because I don't want him anywhere near me. I'm going to train int again. I could train strength, like I said. I'm not going to. I'd rather train int at the time. Now, notice here, I have enough level to pick up Fireball, but I don't have the spell levels left. I need one more spell level to get it. To get more spell levels, you can either level up or get more spell casting. With Deep Elf at +3 spellcasting, I want to just make it known now that you're going to get a lot more spell levels than most characters, and you're going to get a lot more mana than most characters. So you shouldn't have to worry about spell levels most of the time. It's rarely a limiting factor in a lot of things. But we will talk about spell level. We will talk about like spell usage a little later on when we have a couple more choices, I think. But for the time being, we should just know, I just know this. Every single spell that you have should not really be interchangeable with another spell on your spell list. What I mean by that is, look at my spells right now. Conjure Flame is a utility spell that is used to lock down corridors. Flame Tongue is a short-range spell that is extremely mana efficient. Throw Flame is a long... Yeah, did I say Flame Tongue is a short range? Yeah, I did. Throw Flame is a long-range spell that can hit full screen. Sticky Flame is an anti-personnel... is a very potent one-tile range spell that can be used for kiting and melee encounters. Notice how none of these spells overlap in their function. They all do damage, but they all do damage at different ranges. 1 tile, 4 tiles, and full screen. And Conjure Flame is the utility spell. Now, if I were to pick Fireball, for example, what slot would that cover? Well, it actually covers a new slot, which is Area of Effect spell, so it hits multiple targets at the same time. But, say for example, I was going to pick up, let's say Freeze, right? No, actually, okay, let's think. I need a level 1 spell that is short range. I don't have one. Sandblast. Okay. Say I find a book with Sandblast in it. So Sandblast, if you don't know, is a Conjuration's Earth spell. It's a level 1 spell. Has roughly the same amount of range as Flame Tongue, but it consumes 1 stone per use. In return, it doesn't have any elemental weakness, so enemies can't resist Earth. If I were to put that into my spell list, costing me 1 spell slot, what slot would it cover? It would cover Flame Tongue. Would it have any benefit over Flame Tongue, though? No, not specifically, other than irresistibility, which is not a relevant consideration in the early game. Otherwise, like, just magic would suck, if every enemy was resistant to something. Flame Tongue and Sandblast have the same function, being low-level, 1 mana, mid-range / short-range spells that deal a good amount of damage and are fairly mana efficient, right? Flame Tongue and Sandblast should not be in the same spell list, because that's a waste of spell levels. You're much better off just having 1 and using that 1 spell in that slot for that purpose, rather than doubling up on it. That's the beginning. We'll probably talk about it a little bit more when we get more choices, especially when we go Vehumit or Sif Muna. I'll be talking at length with that. So Scorpion is, again, another enemy that's fast, and also... actually, no, he's not fast. He's quite poisonous, though. getting hit by one of those can be lethal pretty early on. Alright, so that's a lot about spell stuff. There is a wizard here. I'm going to go ahead and Conjure Flame the corridor early. He is hasted, so he's going to be able to pelt us quite quickly and move quite quickly as well. We pick up a Dagger of Venom from him, which is a really effective early game tool at anti-personnel. Again, this is if things get bad and I'm in melee with stuff, I need to be able to fight them off. With the combination of Sticky Flame and the Dagger of Venom, we should be able to deal with anything that gets in melee as long as we survive, which is not very long, but it will give us 2 turns to stab, Sticky Flame, run away. Now, note here that the Dagger of Venom and the Sticky Flame both have the same slot efficiency. Very potent 1-tile range. The only difference is here between that discussion I had between Sandblast and Flame Tongue and Sticky Flame and this dagger is I can actually use both in this case, and this Dagger of Venom has no downside. Holding this weapon in my hand has no downside, unless I have a staff, but that's for later. So I have enough spell levels now to pick up Fireball. I'm going to go ahead and do that. I like to put my Fireball on G. I don't know why. It's just how I've always had Fireball. You can put it on whatever the hell you want. It doesn't matter. If you want to change your spell keys, you press the equals button and then S, and then you go adjust which spell. You press A, for example, and then you press the button that you want to reassign it to. Sorry, I didn't bring that up earlier because that's just reflexive for me. I completely forget at times. Okay, so here is an example of auto-explore screwing me over in certain cases. Note here that I am equidistant, almost equidistant from the upstairs to the orc. If he sees me right now and chases me, the distance between me and said orc as I'm moving towards the upstairs will shrink to about 2 tiles. I'm going to go ahead and do that. But what I did instead was I pulled back left. Why would I do that? Well, the orc didn't see me. The best way for me to avoid engaging that orc in general is leave its line of sight immediately. The way stealth works is that every single time that an enemy is in line of sight, he's making checks, perception checks against your stealth. So the best way to avoid that entire scenario, so for example, if I just sit here, okay, well, he's getting a bit dangerously close, but if I just sit here, eventually he'll find me, which is not super likely, but, you know, he's an orc, he's not very smart. But I'm just going to kind of do it for demonstrative purposes. Come on, man, can you just see me? There you go, he found me, right? Took about friggin' 15 turns, but he found me. So every time he's standing in line of sight with me, he's making perception checks, and I can just avoid that by leaving line of sight. Just adds an extra layer, again, of defensive maneuvering to my arsenal. Alright. We're on D5 now. I'm going to leave it here. It's been 30 minutes. That's a lot of talking. So again, we're going to leave it off with another discussion, but I don't actually know what we're going to talk about today. Let's think. So, speaking about... okay, let's just add a bit of trivia at the end of